18 August 1940, Southern England, RAF Biggin Hill. Dawn arrived over Kent beneath a ceiling of low gray cloud, heavy with moisture drifting in from the channel. Visibility was uneven, barely 3 miles in places, with cloud bases hanging around 3,000 feet. It was poor flying weather, but in August 1940, poor weather rarely stopped anything. It only made survival harder. RAF Biggin Hill lay already scarred from weeks of air attack. The airfield sat directly beneath the Luftwaffe's most efficient routes into southeastern England, a forward shield for London itself. Pilots slept lightly now, boots close at hand, knowing that the day would likely be decided within minutes of the first radar report. Just after 10:30 hours, the plotting rooms confirmed what everyone expected. Multiple enemy formations were lifting off from airfields in northern France. The numbers were large, the direction was clear. Bombers were coming, and they were coming with escort. At Biggin Hill, the scramble bell rang. Pilots ran across wet grass and broken concrete as Merlin engines were brought to life. Propellers carved into the damp air. Spitfires lifted off in tight intervals, climbing hard through broken cloud, engines already running hot. The climb rate was steep, more than 2,500 feet per minute, as the aircraft turned southeast toward the coast. The Spitfire was a demanding machine. Early models offered little protection. There was no armor behind the pilot's head. The cockpit was cramped, exposed, loud. 8.303 machine guns were mounted in the wings, firing at a combined rate that emptied their ammunition in seconds. Every burst had to count. At approximately 11:15 hours, the formations met. Through breaks in the cloud, German bombers appeared, Heinkels flying in tight defensive boxes, holding formation with discipline learned over Poland and France. Around them, Messerschmitt fighters moved constantly, climbing and weaving to intercept any British approach. The Spitfires came down from above, but their advantage was limited. German fighters reacted immediately. The airspace compressed into chaos within seconds, aircraft crossing at different altitudes, contrails twisting, tracer fire flashing briefly before vanishing into cloud. The first head-on attack happened without warning. A Messerschmitt appeared directly ahead, climbing fast, nose pointed straight at the Spitfire. There was no room to turn and no altitude to dive. The closing speed exceeded 600 miles per hour. The pilot steadied the sight, fired a short burst, and braced. The two aircraft passed each other in less than a second. The Spitfire jolted violently as disturbed air slammed into its wings. The pilot corrected instinctively, checked his instruments, scanned for smoke or fire. The engine was still running smoothly. He stayed in the fight. Moments later came the second attack. Another German fighter rolled inverted above and dove straight into the Spitfire's path. The pilot aligned, fired again, and broke away sharply. Tracers passed close enough to be felt rather than seen. The enemy aircraft flashed by and vanished below into cloud. There was no time to follow. Radio chatter filled the cockpit, broken calls, warnings cut short, voices strained by urgency. Bombers continued inland. Fighters clashed above and around them. The battle stretched from the coast toward the Thames, expanding vertically as pilots climbed and dived in search of advantage. The third head-on engagement came as the Spitfire climbed through the edge of a bomber formation. A Messerschmitt crossed directly ahead, close enough that its engine cowling filled the windscreen. The pilot fired a 2-second burst. The enemy aircraft rolled violently and dropped away in a steep, uncontrolled dive. The pilot did not look back. Fuel consumption was high. Ammunition was already reduced by more than half. The Spitfire climbed and turned, trying to reposition for another attack on the bombers as they pressed forward. The fourth attack came from slightly below the horizon. A German fighter climbed aggressively, committing fully to a collision course. The pilot saw muzzle flashes first, then felt impacts along the wing. He fired back, held steady, and broke away at the last possible moment. The aircraft shuddered, but remained responsive. The fifth attack followed within minutes. This time, the enemy dropped straight down out of the sun glare. There was barely time to react. A short burst, then a violent evasive pull. The two aircraft missed each other by yards. The strain was cumulative. Hands cramped around the control column. Breathing grew shallow under repeated high-G maneuvers. The cockpit smelled of cordite and hot oil.
The pilot's neck burned from constant scanning. There was no room left for fear, only function. Below, London lay distant and hazed. Above, contrails crisscrossed the sky like scars. Shortly after 1300 hours, the radio carried urgent news. Biggin Hill was under attack. Bombers had broken through the fighter screen. Explosions rippled across the airfield. Hangars burned. Fuel dumps ignited. Runways were cratered. Yet operations continued. Aircraft landed on grass where they could. Ground crews worked through smoke and falling debris, refueling and rearming by hand. The Spitfire returned briefly, landing hard on damaged ground. Bullet holes were visible across wings and fuselage, but the structure held. Fuel was added. Ammunition drums were replaced. There was no time for proper repair. Within minutes, the aircraft was airborne again. At approximately 300 hours, the sixth head-on engagement occurred over the Thames estuary. German fighters were now pressing aggressively, determined to clear the airspace before the bombers turned for home. A Messerschmitt climbed straight toward the Spitfire. Both pilots committed. Fire was exchanged. Impacts were felt. This time, the Spitfire was seriously damaged. Oil sprayed across the windshield. Engine vibration changed, subtle but unmistakable. Temperatures climbed. The pilot wiped the screen with his glove and stayed with the formation. The seventh engagement came almost immediately. Another head-on pass, closer than any before. The Spitfire's ammunition was nearly exhausted. The pilot fired a final sustained burst. Then the guns fell silent. The enemy aircraft passed so close that individual markings were visible. Now, unarmed and damaged, disengagement would have been reasonable. It did not come. As the bombers turned back toward the channel, one final German fighter dove out of the sun. The Spitfire climbed to meet it. No shots were fired. Speed and nerve alone carried the moment. The two aircraft missed each other by feet. Then, suddenly, there was space. The Spitfire turned back toward Biggin Hill alone. Oil pressure dropped steadily. Engine temperature climbed. Every vibration threatened failure. Smoke rising from the burning airfield guided the approach. The landing was rough, but controlled. Ground crew counted more than a dozen bullet holes. Control surfaces were damaged. The aircraft had survived 8 documented head-on engagements in a single day. So had the pilot. That evening, fires still burned across Biggin Hill. Mechanics worked quietly, examining cracked panels and stressed metal. Inside the dispersion huts, pilots sat with untouched mugs of tea. Some chairs were empty. Names were crossed off boards without ceremony. Across the channel, German airfields were just as active. Losses were tallied, damage assessed. The Luftwaffe had struck hard, but not hard enough. The following morning, repairs began before sunrise. Runways were filled by hand. Aircraft were salvaged for parts. Pilots flew again with little rest. Fighter command bent, but it did not break. The significance of that day lay not in a single aircraft, but in endurance. Head-on attacks allowed no margin for error. They demanded absolute commitment. That one aircraft survived 8 such encounters in a single day was not legend. It was documented fact. As summer gave way to autumn, German strategy shifted. Pressure on airfields eased. Fighter command recovered. Britain remained in the war. The outcome was not glory, but survival. The legacy was resolve. Those who flew in August 1940 did not know how the war would end. They knew only that each sortie might be their last. They flew anyway. They are remembered.